Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. Today's podcast is 5 must-know success rules. And I'll suggest to all of you that you write these notes down. You absolutely positively check yourself against these rules, and you live by these rules, because really at the end of the day, with this podcast and our coaching program and our books and all the other things we've done over the years, what they're always focusing on is getting down to the essence of what makes somebody successful long-term, and no better essence output is today's podcast with regards to the 5 success rules.
Yes, unfortunately, these are the top 5. All of them have been proven. We're not trying anything out on you. Some of these might be a little bit hard for some of you to take, but they are absolutely tried and true.
And you'll notice when you're listening to Julie and I know this is true based on the feedback that all of you guys give us, that the fact that you realize what we're saying is true because it resonates instantly with you. In other words, when Julie and I say our points, it's as, when we're trying to explain to you a concept, the reason that so many of you resonate with what we're saying is because intuitively, almost like you already knew what we were going to say. And sometimes, even if you're a new listener, you actually know what we're going to say when we're going to say it. It's because we are speaking to your inner self that already knows the truth. And our real job, and I believe this is true, by the way, our real focus is reminding you, or I think maybe in some cases igniting within you, your own self-discovery of, really what it's going to take for you to be long-term successful. And it's very easy to lose contact and really maybe even not even have any trust with that inner self, the inner, I call it your intuition, that tells you what is true and what isn't true, because there's so many things out there that are giving you conflicting information. So when you listen to the podcast and you all of a sudden feel totally in alignment with what we're saying, it's because you already innately knew what we were saying is true. So look for those little epiphanies. Look for those little moments of truth, if you want to call it that, because that is a clear indication that you're on the right path.
Yes, thank you for reminding them of that, and I completely agree with you on that point. Point number 1 is proactive lead generation. That is your #1 job. You must make contact with a greater amount of people more frequently than you think. And I would say, especially in today's market, where we've got some of the FOMO has dried up and not every buyer that was a buyer is a buyer, all of those types of pressures that you've got, the only solution to that is first to embrace this fact that lead generation is your #1 job, but to realize that you've got to actually make more contact with a greater amount of people more frequently. And I would add to that, in a greater variety of places, not just your past clients and centers of influence. You've got to branch out from that.
That is such an important point, because here's where my mind went as soon as you said that. It's so, should be true to all of you. If what you're doing now for lead generation, because the first point is proactive lead generation is your #1 job. If what you were doing last year, 6 months ago, 6 minutes ago, 6 years ago isn't working now, it's not because you suck. It's because that lead generation thing it doesn't work as well anymore. And what you're discovering, I don't know how long you've been in business, dear listener, but if you've been in the business for more than 5 years, you know what I'm about to say is true. What worked today probably does work. What worked yesterday probably does work today, but not at the same level, because what happens as soon as a new lead generation, this is the difference between passive and proactive lead generation, but as soon as a new, let's say, passive lead generation thing comes in, Facebook ads, maybe it's some new gimmick with emails. Maybe it's buying leads from this company or that company. What happens is you might have a window where you can make the most of the opportunity that's going to last 90 days, maybe 180 days, and then it's oversaturated because everyone and their brother has figured out what you're doing to generate leads, and they're going to start copying you, and then all of a sudden the lead generation idea that you thought was the greatest thing ever is no longer working. Now, that can also run true to maybe some of the passive stuff, especially the passive stuff. Let's say, for example, you've been doing a direct mail campaign in your marketplace for years. And let's say years ago, it actually worked and it's not working now. And so what do? Well, where's your mind go? It's frustrating. It's scary. It's confusing. Well, here's the simple fact. It isn't working anymore. How much more time and energy are you going to spend trying to tweak the, postcards and trying to change the font and trying to change your sales copy and all the rest of it. And the more time you try to spend trying to make something that doesn't really work anymore work, the less time you're going to have to really focus on what is working now and what will work into the future. You guys get it? So you're going to have to give yourself permission to, there's an old saying, when the going gets tough, the smart get going. Well, I've heard a flip side to that, and, or maybe Julie and I thought it up, frankly, but it's definitely true. And I've Googled this before, and you and I are the only ones that are attached to this quote, so maybe we did create it. But when the going gets tough, the smart leave. And I'll tell you where I originally started internalizing that is 30 years ago, when Julie and I were selling real estate. And then when we're part of a startup company, and Julie and I were the co-CEO for that company called, what was it called? Powerhouse.
Powerhouse, yes.
Right, doing all these other things. But what we were able to see is and back then we were all like, when the going gets tough, the smart get going. So we are going to use our life energy to try to make an idea that didn't really work. Well, that's called dumb, because what's going to happen then is what you should be doing, or where your energy should be flowing, it's not going to get your focus because you're too busy trying to make something work that's never going to work. So when the going gets tough, the smart leave. So if you're at a brokerage and the brokerage is not working out for you, you should leave. If you're doing some marketing and a lead generation thing that was working before and it's not working now, it's not you, it's the idea, it's the concept, it's the company that was providing you the lead, all these other things. If you've been trying to invest tons of money into YouTube video marketing or into building your CRM, and you've been doing it for years and years and years, because after all, everyone says that's the smartest thing and it's not working, well, maybe this is your opportunity. Give yourself permission to redirect your energy into something that is going to work. You have to trust your intuition. If it's not working, it's not working. You're just stuck in an abusive relationship with some of these lead selling platforms and some of these ideas that may have worked in the past and they're not now. And so choose to no longer be part of that abusive relationship.
Very well put. That's a good way to color that. Point number 2, you must follow a proactive, profit-driven schedule. Not so long ago, we did a podcast about controlling your time and making sure you are productive and not just busy. You've got to follow, and not just have, but follow your proactive, profit-driven schedule. The things that you avoid the most are the same things that make you the most profitable. So you've got to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And that's on a daily basis. Focusing on proactive lead generation, furiously fast lead follow-up, and past client communication, for example. Here's a quote from Winston Churchill, who said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts." He's talking about doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level, but not just doing it now and then when you have a panic attack because you just sold your last listing and you don't have any buyers in your pipeline. You do it every day, that won't happen to you.
Well, but Julie, these are all, I love these points that you wrote, and your assistant ChatGPT, I assume, because these Winston Churchill quotes aren't things you normally quote. So as Julie's going through these points, I'm just thinking to myself, if, again, leaning back into the first point, now tying it in with Julie's second point, some of you are losing faith in yourselves and you're losing confidence that you could actually be successful, maybe not just in real estate, but in life in general. And so you're starting to think, well, maybe success isn't for me. Maybe, great relationships aren't for me. Maybe great health isn't for me. Maybe I'm too old for that, too young for it, too smart for it, too ugly for it, too pretty for it. It does not matter. You got to realize that you are probably on the wrong path with some of the decisions you're making, and you just need to really stop and ask yourself, how do I know this particular, marketing gimmick, just to make it practical, is actually working? How do I know this branding is actually working? Well, you want it to work. It makes you feel good thinking that it's going to work, but what you've probably done is made decisions that weren't based on actual practical, tactical results. In other words, how much money did you make from that particular activity? How many people have you helped from that particular activity? And what you're going to learn very quickly is you're going to start making decisions that are based on real results, not just based on manipulative, emotional ploys that a lot of these companies that have been selling you guys stuff have essentially, been leaning into. You want to be the number one, real estate brand in your marketplace. Well, here's another one. You want to be a social media star. You want to have 1 billion people following you and subscribing you and all the rest of it. Okay, why? Why do you want those things? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why? Your mind fills in the gap. Then you say, well, because if I have 1 billion people on YouTube that are following me on Instagram or whatever, that automatically is going to mean a lot of people are going to call me. Really? That's going to result in real estate transactions? Have you actually verified that? How have you verified it? Have you asked real questions? Have you actually drilled down and followed through and asked yourself, and asked for verification validation of these ideas and gone to the extent of doing the research yourself? You haven't, have you? And so the reason that these things aren't working isn't because you suck. It's because the idea doesn't really work. That's unfortunately the truth of what happens. And a lot of times with a lot of you, because then you start losing faith in yourselves and then your life energy goes out the door. And then you essentially say, well, I guess success and highest version of myself will never happen in this lifetime. And that's unbelievably sad. So do take responsibility with the decisions you're making by really starting running every decision through very, very tough filters. Like hopefully I'm inspiring some of you to think like that now.
That's a great lead up to our point number 3, which is exactly what you just said. You must own your success. You must own your success. Embrace affirmations like, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And I'm a doer. I do things now. I get things done. Franklin Roosevelt, thank you again, ChatGPT, wrote about success that the only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. You talk about that with regards to controlling your time and how you're thinking about that success. Have you decided that success, as you said, maybe isn't for you? Well, you can undecide that and get back into control when you own your success.
That's really awesome. Let's tie that into something we talk about on the podcast, right? So the only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. So that's great, Julie. Thank you for finding that quote. So here's an interesting thought with that. If you do not like the version, the things that are around you, the health, the wealth, the happiness, the nature of your relationships, if you don't like how you're existing on this planet right now, there's things that are not in alignment with yourself as the highest, truest, and vision of yourself. Or you guys get it? If you're out of alignment with the person that you want to be, it's because the decisions you've made in the past have led you to this spot. If you're a little, fat, it's because you made a decision to eat things in the past. This should all be obvious to you. If you have a whole bunch of financial abundance, it's because the decisions you made in the past have led to this financial abundance today. So that's ultimately an interesting bridge to this next thought. If you don't believe that tomorrow will be better than today, then what you're going to do, Franklin Roosevelt, quoting him here, is you're going to lock in that reality. So if you believe that tomorrow, next year, next 10 years is going to suck, then you're not going to do the things today that would make it unsuck for you. So you're going to, why should I not have that dozen Krispy Kreme's donuts? I mean, after all, what difference does it make? Or the economy sucks, or the interest rates are just going to go up. There's no buyers or sellers. So when you have those thoughts, what are the actions that follow? They're actions that are going to lock in your future reality being worse than it is today, versus if you believe tomorrow is going to be better than today. And I got great news for you. For the history of humanity, tomorrow has always been better than today. Maybe not tomorrow, but let's say next year. I mean, the lifestyles that we're living now, I wouldn't trade this lifestyle. I wouldn't trade the medical care. I wouldn't trade the abundance we have. All these things that we take for granted, those would be considered extreme luxuries only 20 years ago. I don't know if any of you have ever really considered how lucky you are. So if you're surrounded by abundance, which all of you are, you need to leverage that into the realization that you can actually get an exponential return on that, provided you take the actions today. So we're on a beach here in Puerto Rico with Julie and I. It's 12 months from now. And I ask you, and some of you will be on the beach here in Puerto Rico with Julie and I 12 months from now. And I'm going to ask you, Bob, what are the 3 things that you've accomplished in your past 12 months that you're the most proud of? You need to definitively say, I lost 20 pounds. I saved X amount of dollars, whatever those things are. You need to define what those things are that you want to be the most proud of in 12 months so you can put a plan in place today to make those things happen. I want you to think about that, because if you don't like your present reality, it's because 12 months ago, give or take, you were not making decisions, or you were making decisions that led to your current reality. So I ask you, dear listener, what are those 3 to 5 things you want to be most proud of having accomplished 12 months from now? And what are then, if you can use our real estate treasure map, then you need to break those goals down into, essentially action plans so you can actually lock in the fact that you're going to get those things accomplished. And that's what Premier Coaching is all about. That's a big element of Premier Coaching, is helping you to move forward with authority into the future version of yourself that you're off the charts happy with. And again, joining Premier Coaching is free. You can just go to premiercoaching.com, or the link to join Premier Coaching is down below in today's show description. Oh, I should mention, We are not able to put all of our show notes in the show descriptions anymore like we have been for years because the platforms are giving us less and less space. So we want to still give you all of our notes and all of our content. The notes we're using today, even more, are going to be available in our new newsletter, which all of you can subscribe to for free. Just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, harrisrealestatedaily.com, or click the link below and just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. Sign up for the newsletter. All of our notes are going to be there. A lot of additional content that we're going to be creating just for the newsletter and exclusive to the newsletter. One of the things that I've been working on for the last 2 months are a whole bunch of interviews. So starting in the next couple months, on the newsletter only, we're going to start having these hour-long, sometimes 90-minute long interviews I've been doing with some, frankly, the movers and shakers in the real estate industry, some of which are famous. Frederick Eklund's going to be on there. A lot of the CEOs of a lot of the real estate brands are going to be on there. And my favorite interviews, frankly, are the normal folks that are being successful selling real estate in this market. Those are, frankly, the interviews I enjoy the most. But all those interviews are going to be available exclusively to our free newsletter subscribers.
Yes, I look forward to those interviews as well. And I would agree with you. They are all very interesting and fascinating in their own rights. But I think that a lot of our listeners really resonate with somebody. They say, you know what, that sounds just like me. That person, I didn't see that person on HGTV. Or maybe you did. Maybe that's one of your favorites. So don't miss those. Next important point, lead with listings. There's an old saying that says you must list to last. And that is very true. Taking new listings regularly is crucial for your real estate success. Know your magic number. We talk about that in the treasure map. We talk about that in coaching, and never drop below it. Your magic number is the number of active listings that you must have at all times in your own inventory to meet or exceed your monthly goals. And how do you figure out what your magic number is? It's through the treasure map. You can also find out in Premier Coaching. So here's another quote.
And the treasure map is available if they go to premiercoaching.com. That's one of the first things we want you to download. It's in the first level. It's your fill-in-the-blank business and life plan.
Exactly. So Albert Schweitzer said, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, you will be successful. Now, that does not mean you have to love negotiating home inspections or even love competing. Your job is to love the results you get by helping people, because that's what leads you to accomplishing your goals. Would you agree with that?
I would. And so ultimately, if you want to, it's the whole passion thing, right? Follow your passion.
Yes.
Saying to your children and to yourself that you have to be passionate about something in order for you to be successful at it. I realize that's in the current zeitgeist and it's a big mindset thing. It's also an enormous lie, and also is derailing a lot of people's potential, because no matter how much passion you have for something, eventually it's going to get boring. It's going to, especially if you're having to do it for a living, you're going to eventually learn to hate it, or at least resent it. You're not going to, let's say, you have absolute passion for making pottery. I don't know, right? Whatever it is. But all of a sudden you now you got an order for 20 pots or 20 coffee cups. Well, it's going to be probably on about coffee cup number 15 where your thumbs start to hurt from the pottery wheel that you're going to start saying, you know what, this really sucks. I don't have passion for pottery anymore. So what you're going to do is you're going to scrap your pottery business, and now you're going to decide you're going to be a basket weaver. It's going to happen over and over and over again, because the reality of it is if you have to be passionate to be really successful at something, passion is a fleeting emotion, comes and goes, ebbs and flows. Be passionate, to Julie's point, for the results that come as a result of, you're being successful at something. You might not be. I was never passionate for selling real estate. Neither were you.
Nope.
I was passionate for what came as a result of selling real estate. That should be a big liberating moment for all of you who are thinking, damn, I must have a problem because of the fact that I don't feel passionate for doing all this stuff that I'm told to, do, or I don't feel passionate for working on my branding, or I don't feel passionate for calling a FSBO or knocking on an expired door or whatever. Well, who cares? Do it anyway. Do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest levels. I'll say it again. If you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, it's not from following your passion, guys. It's from doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. That is called the truth.
Yes, that's right. I was kind of laughing because I was remembering when I was a musician, right? And I did have passion for that. But you know what was really terrible about that? You don't always get to choose what you play. I have a lot of passion for a lot of different pieces, but that's not always up to you. You have to play a lot of stuff you don't really like.
Yeah, I remember having to go when you guys were playing the
like
Baroque
medleys, blech.
Baroque music.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's ear torture.
Yeah, but you know what? If that's what was on the program, that's what you had to practice. So, all right. Next, but not last but not least, persistence and client focus. Nurture your database. This is a prevailing thought on many of our podcasts. Learn to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at a highest level. But you know what is less painful for that is talking to people who already know, love, and trust you. This should be your foundational spoke on the wheel, but not your only spoke. So make sure that you're very persistent about that. We have done entire podcasts and podcast series about that. So that you know what I know. I was watching that. So yes, take care of your database. We have a lot of things going on in Premier Coaching right now having to do with the database, different pop-by ideas and scripting and taking good care of them. So that is our 5 top points. I think that these are hard to argue with because they're all very proven.
I want to really drill down on something. So Julie and I do not have passion for doing this podcast. We don't. We have passion for what comes as a result of doing this podcast. Focus on the result. So if you're selling real estate and you're finding yourself, oh, I don't have passion for this, I can't do it anymore. I just, whatever, some fleeting emotional thing that you're not able to manifest within yourself anymore. You did when you got your license, but you don't feel it anyway. I'm burned out, or it's just not for me. You got to stop thinking like that. Focus on what comes as a result of having done the work. I hate going to the gym. We haven't gone to the gym yet today. We have to go to the gym today. We're going to swing kettlebells. I will hate it every single second except for when we're done and we're leaving. That's the only time I really like it.
Me too.
That's when Julie and I put pictures of ourselves on Instagram. It's basically our proof of life that we actually made it through another workout, right? Isn't that what it feels like?
Yes.
Yeah. So, the moral of the story is that I don't have passion for working out. I don't like doing it, but I like the results that come from it. I like the fact that I'm going to be 54 this year and I'm in great shape. I like the fact that I can keep up with our rabid 10-year-old, Yeah. I like the fact that I feel better now than I have in my entire life or as much as I can remember, right? That is worth it. So I'm willing to do what I don't want to do and I don't want to do it at the highest level because I like the results. Your results in real estate are not dependent on your passion or love for what you're doing. It's dependent on how attached you are for the results that come, not just for yourself in the form of financial rewards and lifestyle and all the rest of the quality of life issues, but also the results that you get from actually knowing you've helped somebody buy or sell real estate. That profound feeling of knowing that you helped somebody solve a problem, which is what you are doing as a professional salesperson. That is what professional salespeople do. They're problem solvers. But the feeling of accomplishment that comes from having sold that hard to sell listing, or having gotten that cranky buyer in contract, that is what you build your foundation on. That is where your strength comes from. That is where your confidence comes from. And you can't shortcut it. You can't brand your way to having that emotional response or having that, neurological pathway in your mind. You have to earn it. And that's the unfortunate truth, what a lot of you guys have been led to believe, that you can sort of fake it until you make it. Well, there's some validity to that, but the reality of it is the only real way to make it is actually to, have actually made it from actually having done the work. So please have your head screwed on straight about this. If you're in any way losing confidence in your ability to be successful in this market, I want you to go back, listen to this podcast again, subscribe to Harris Real Estate Daily, and you'll then be able to read our notes. You can do it. You are in the right place at the right time. This is going to be the start, what will be one of the longest real estate booms in the history of humanity, surely based on the number of people that want to transact. You got baby boomers, downsizers. You got Generation X, or Julie and I's Generation X. You got the millennials. You got all the other whatever catch-all marketing names we give these big groups of people. All of them want to buy or sell real estate, and you happen to be someone who, guess what, can help them buy or sell real estate. Good job, go you, right? So use this information to help you to stay motivated and focused. In the meantime, thank you for allowing us to be your daily real estate coaches. We certainly appreciate the honor of you guys allowing us to be in your lives every single day. It does give our professional lives a sense of purpose. So help us get the word out by giving us a 5-star review over in iTunes. And do leave a comment why you love the podcast. We certainly appreciate all your continued support. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.